Hello everyone, welcome to 21 Gems of Chess, and I'm Grandmaster Priyadharshan Kannappan from Chess Gyaan Academy, and this video is brought to you in partnership with Follow Chess app and Chess Gyaan Academy. So 21 Gems of Chess is a 21-day series where we cover games of 21 great players from the past who had the potential but fell short of becoming a world champion. We are now in the midpoint of a 21-day series as we are on the 11th day of this 21 Gems of Chess, and we have been looking at different players from different eras, and today we are going to be looking at Grandmaster Paul Benko. So Paul Benko was an Hungarian American chess player, author, and in recent days he was more famous for compose sort of endgame studies and chess problems. His compositions have been, a lot of top websites have published them as Christmas puzzles, or in general his compositions have been one of amazing studies and puzzles in general. So Paul Benko, as a world title candidate, he played twice in the candidates in 1959 and 1962, and in the 1970 interzonal tournament, even though he had qualified, he gave up his spot to Bobby Fischer, who then went on to become the world champion in 1972. So Paul Benko was a very, very, credible, strong, top-rated player, and he went on to later play a lot of open tournaments in the US. So if you look through his database, you'll find a lot of his games that he has played in open tournaments against players of different rating levels. So in this game, we are going to be looking at Paul Benko playing the white pieces against another US Grandmaster, or American Grandmaster Arthur Bisguier, in New York Zonal playoff in 1964. So white starts with knight f3. So, as I mentioned, if you look through the games of Paul Benko, you would realize that his preparation was not to really get an advantage or any such sort out of the opening. It was mainly to get very, like dynamic fighting positions, or positions where there is easily you can trick your opponents in later stages. So he did not really choose very topical lines, and you may all know that the very famous Benko gambit is also actually named after Paul Benko. So knight f3 was played by Paul Benko. Black went knight f6. White played g3, d5, bishop g2, and black goes knight b d7. This is not the most popular move. Obviously, the more popular moves are moves like e6 or g6 or c5 and so on. Knight b d7 is only the eighth most popular move in this position, and for good reasons. It's not played as much as compared to moves like e6 or g6. The primary reason being, when you go knight b d7, the bishop on c8 is being blocked. So you're kind of not giving yourself the flexibility on where you want to put the bishop. So by playing knight b d7, you're telling your opponent, yes, I'm going to play b6 or b5 and develop my bishop to b7. This committal decision maybe is not to a lot of players liking. That's why knight b d7 is not way often compared to e6 or g6. So for knight b d7, the most popular move for white would be obviously to go d4 to stop black from going e5. But in this game, white decided to short castle, and black goes e5 and white goes d3. So if you look at it in a deeper perspective, we have a reversed Pirc on the board. But another good thing about this particular setup for white is that it can easily change to other openings also. It's right now only Pirc, or reversed Pirc. But few moves later, it may look to you like a different opening or a different structure. That flexibility is what makes this a very good or an interesting opening choice for many players. So black goes bishop d6, and here white went knight b d2 in the game. But white does have an option with c4. If c4, d takes c4, d takes c4, short castle, knight c3, an unclear position. And c4 is a move that is in general played by quite a few strong players like Grischuk and Swidler, especially in faster time controls, rapid and blitz games. So in the game, white continued with 6th move knight b d2, black played c6, e4, short castle, rook e1. Only a few moves ago, I mentioned that this looks like a reversed Pirc, but in this particular position, if you look at the ECO code, it would say as B10. B10 is nothing but Caracon's, starting systems and Caracon like E4, C6, D3, and so on. And I think you can now see the connection E4, C6, D3, D5, Knight B, D2, and how you can reach this particular position. So that is the point, as I mentioned, that this variation can shape shift itself into other opening lines easily. And black goes rook e8 for rook e1, and this move rook e8 was a novelty or a new move in 1964. And as I earlier mentioned, in a different position like with 6th move c4, this particular position is also a favorite in faster time controls, especially rapid and blitz, mainly because of the shape shifting ability between different variations and systems, which can easily confuse both sides of white and black. So the side that kind of has a better understanding of the position can play. So this is a position where understanding triumphs over precise move order. So for rook e8, white goes c3, and instead of c3 there are other moves that are also tested by strong players like h3, b3, a4, and so on. In this game, white plays c3. So the idea of c3, in my opinion, is two critical ideas. One is obviously just go queen c2 and slowly expand. The other idea is to go b4 and expand on the queen side. These two are the critical ideas of c3. So for c3, black went knight c5, but I feel black should have played a5 first. This move is not just aimed at stopping white from going b4, but it is also aimed at black gaining more space. So if white doesn't do anything, black will go a4 and gain some more space on the queen side. But let's say if white goes a4, then black will go knight c5, queen c2, d takes e4, and if knight takes e4, you'll play knight f e4, d e4, bishop e6, and you see the problem for white by playing a4, that is the weak b3 square, which can be exploited by black. So in case on 12th move, instead of knight takes e4, if white plays d takes e4, then black can just simply go h6, kind of securing this e6 square for the bishop. So he's threatening to go bishop e6 without the fear of white going knight g5. So that is an unclear position on the board. So for a5, in case if white doesn't go a4 but white goes queen c2, then black can play d takes e4, knight takes e4, knight takes e4, d e4, queen c7, and an unclear position on the board. So this is 9th move a5, though this move was not played in the game. If we just saw the 9th move a5, but in the game black decided to go knight c5, putting pressure on the d3 pawn. So white went queen c2, defending it, and black can play de4 if he wants and then play de4 a5, but instead in the game black went bishop c7. The idea is very evident that black is threatening to play de4 and aim at the d3 square with his knight. So this there is some pressure on d3 here. So here white realizes that there's going to be a pressure, and white played ed5. But for the curiosity's sake, let's see what happens if white goes b4 trying to attack the knight on c5. Black would go d takes e4, and white has two options here. One is b takes c5 taking the knight, or the other option is d takes e4 taking the pawn. So let's start with d takes e4, then knight d3, rook d1, knight takes c1, rook a c1. And black has a slight edge because double bishops, and black can just go queen e7 and play a very long-term game and try to use his double bishop advantage to his favor. So instead of d takes e4 on move 12, if white played b takes c5, then black would play e takes f3, knight takes f3, bishop f5, and again black has a equals plus position due to this kind of weak pawn, possibly a weakness on c5. So this is if 11th move b4. In the games, noticing this, Paul Benko decided to play e takes d5. So for e takes d5, this is a critical moment in the game, and if you're watching this video, I would suggest you to maybe pause and calculate the variations before you proceed with the video, because I feel like black has 2-3 critical continuations. I mean, even capturing on d5, there's 3 possible ways, and outside of capturing, there may be some intermediate move also that you would have to calculate. So a minimum of 5 minutes to figure out all the variations and which one you would choose, and then proceeding forward would be the best way here. So now let's see the variations. So for ed5, as I mentioned, cd5 or knight d5 or queen d5, all 3 are possible captures. And outside of these 3 captures, there's another move which is bishop to f5. So in the game, black went knight takes d5, But let's look at first what happens if black decides not to capture the pawn but goes bishop f5. A very sharp and interesting intermediate move, as black immediately puts pressure on the d3 pawn and not worrying about the fact that he's technically a pawn down right now. If white continues with d takes c6, black will play b takes c6, and if knight h4, black will play bishop takes d3, queen d1, e4, and kind of shut down this bishop and knight, and a very strong control on d3 and c5. And I really like black's position here. So instead of d takes c6 on move 12, if white goes knight e4, then black can play queen takes d5. If knight takes c5, queen takes c5, knight h4, bishop d7, b4, and an uncleared position. If white decides to play knight takes f6 on 13th move, then black would play g takes f6, knight d4, attacking the queen, attacking the bishop. Black will play bishop takes d3, bishop takes d5, bishop takes c2, bishop takes c6, bc6, knight c2, and an unclear position with equal material on the board. So this is if 11th move bishop f5, which is a very interesting intermediate move. And as I earlier mentioned, in the game black played knight d5, which we will come as the last variation. Before knight d5, let us look at c takes d5, which would be a mistake. The point being white has this very strong break with d4, e takes d4, rook takes e8, queen takes e8, and knight takes d4. So by taking with a knight, you have an isolated pawn on d5, which can be slowly exploited, the weakness of the pawn. So black goes knight e6, knight takes e6, f takes e6, and white goes c4, opening up this diagonal. And if dc4, some queen c4 or knight c4, and this bishop is a weakness, these are all big weaknesses that black needs to be worrying about. So this is on 11th move, c takes d5, black captures, which would be a mistake. Let's see what happens if black captures queen takes d5 and immediately puts pressure on the d3 pawn. White has d4, e takes d4, rook takes e8, knight takes e8. If c d4, then black will just simply go knight e6. So white if goes knight takes d4, then black can go queen h5, and we have an unclear position on the board. So these options, bishop f5 and queen d5, so far seem interesting because c d5 was a mistake. Now let's look at knight takes d5 played in the game. This is a mistake. The primary reason being this move actually lacks the energy that the moves like bishop f5 or queen d5 has. So what do I mean by energy is that those two moves, bishop f5 and queen d5, created some threats on the d3 pawn, and were attacking on forcing white to make some decisions, crucial decisions. But knight d5 comparatively is more of a passive approach, and this allows white to seize the initiative. And how does that happen? White goes b4, immediately attacking the knight, asking where are you going to go. So now white is the one dictating the terms of the game. So black has two options, knight d7 or knight e6. In the game black went knight d7, but I prefer knight e6. The reason being, if knight e6 and white goes something like knight e5, it would be a big blunder because black has this beautiful knight takes b4, c b4, and knight d4, attacking the queen and attacking the knight. So bishop e5 is coming up soon. So white cannot really go something like queen c5 or so, because black can simply go b6 for queen c5. So first knight, so this is if 13th move knight takes e5, trying to grab the pawn, which would be a greedy and bad approach by white. Another option for white would be to go knight c4, now threatening to take on e5. Black can play f6, white will go a4, and a slightly pleasant position for white. And the other option for white instead of knight c4 would be to go knight b3, and if f6, go bishop d2. So this the reason to put the knight on b3 is that when you go knight c4, you're stopping your c3 pawn from going to c4, but when the knight is on b3, you're kind of ready for the c4 pawn push. And also when you go c4, the d3 square is weak, but if you have a knight on b3 and knight on f3, then kind of the square is very well protected on d4. So this is white still gets like plus equals or more than plus equals position after knight e6, but still I feel this could be a better move than knight d7, which is very passive, because after knight d7, then again black has to move his knight if he wants on d7, if he wants to develop the bishop on c8 and then follow it up by developing the rook on a8. So for knight d7, white goes a3. So now white is getting ready to kick this knight away from d5. Black goes knight f8. An option for black would have been to go a5, but white would have still gone c4, knight e7, bishop b2, and a plus equals with a huge space advantage and a weakness on e5. So black went knight f8. white goes c4, black goes knight f6. So if you just simply compare this position with the position after, let's say after knight takes d5 on move 11, you would realize how black's knights have been pushed back in the span of 3 to 4 moves, and every time the knights have been pushed back, white gained some more space on the queen side. So that does show the initiative going on which side's favor. So for knight f6, white goes bishop b2, threatening to take e5. So black goes knight g6. An option for black would have been bishop f5, but then white would simply play knight e5. The knight is defending the d3 pawn. So if black goes bishop takes e5, bishop takes e5, queen takes d3, white would go queen b2, and white has a plus equals or slightly more than plus equals position with a lot of pressure on this diagonal overall, and especially on the f6 and g7 black pieces. So the 15th move, bishop f5, is the line that we just saw. Instead, in the game, black went knight g6, defending the e5 pawn. And here, if you're watching the video, I would suggest you to pause, calculate what would you play here, and then proceed accordingly. So because I feel the move that Benko played here is in the spirit of the position and is actually the best move also. So let's see what Benko played here. He played d4. So this is the correct move because white has a lead in development. So by playing d4 and opening up the center and opening up the position, white is going to accelerate his lead in development further, and that is only going to favor white even more. The point being, after e takes d4 as played in the game, white has rook takes e8, and if queen e8, white has this nice intermediate move, first going rook e1 attacking the queen, then follow it up with knight takes d4. So for d4, e takes d4, rook takes e8, black captured, knight takes e8. And here is a question, quick question, which bishop or knight would you capture the pawn on d4? So the point is the bishop d4 is slightly dubious because it's not doing much in my opinion. But if you capture with knight like Benko, then you are kind of threatening moves like knight f5 that are not immediately but in the future. And also more importantly, you have removed the block of the bishop's view on this diagonal. So once knight d4 is played, white can try to start thinking of moves like b5 and activate the g2 bishop even further. So here black had a best fighting chance move, but he did not play that. Black played a5, and this is kind of like helping white to achieve what he wanted, because as I just mentioned, white was going to play b5 and kind of open up the h1 a8 diagonal even further. By going a5, it allows white to go b5. But before we go a5, for black on 18th move, let's see what would be the most fighting move, and that would be bishop e5, with black trying to exchange as many minor pieces as possible and also kind of limit the influence of the b2 bishop on this particular diagonal a1 h8. So if white goes rook e1, if black plays bishop d4, it will simply play bishop d4. The point being, this d4 bishop is not hanging because the e8 bishop is so the e8 knight is hanging. If black plays something like queen d4, white will play rook takes e8. So for rook e1, if black goes bishop f6, white will simply go knight to b3, and at some points when white is going to go b5, a4 and c5 and expand on the queen side and create some weaknesses over here. But the point being, immediately there is no weakness. So black can kind of be okayish for a move or two, he can try to save himself, create some ideas before white just completely plays a4, b5, c5 and breaks open and creates some targets that he can attack on the black's queen side. In the game though, black played 18th move a5, and this allowed white to go b5, and after c takes b5 we have a critical moment in my opinion, and you should calculate how you want to continue. I mean, there's a lot of good moves here, so you have to choose the absolute best of the good moves and choose a variation that suits your style also. So now let's see what the move that Benko played. Benko played c takes b5. The other options instead of c takes b5 for white is obviously knight takes b5. If knight b5, black would go bishop e5, bishop takes e5, knight takes e5, rook e1, knight c6, c5, and white is threatening knight c4 followed by knight b6 and attack black's rook on e8, and black is cramped for space and black's minor pieces are poorly developed. So a good advantage for white. This is 20th move, knight takes b5. Another a bit fancy move for white is c5 instead of capturing on b5. The point being, white is saying that I can capture b5 anytime I want. So if black goes bishop d7 defending b5, then black loses the b7 pawn with bishop takes b7. Then if rook b8 goes knight c6, bishop takes c6, bishop c6. White has double bishops, weakness on b5 and g7 and so on, and kind of an advanced pawn on c5. So white clearly has an advantage here too. In the game for c takes b5 on move 19, white played c takes b5. So all the three continuations we discussed here, c takes b5 or knight takes b5 or c5, all are good for white. So it's a matter of personal choice and preference what kind of position you want to play. So here Benko chose c takes b5 and black went bishop b6, white goes queen c3, black went knight f6 and white goes knight c4. So for knight c4 now, kind of there is some exchange ideas on b6 that white is threatening, and other than that also some sort of rook d1 or rook e1 is coming up next. So here if black decides to exchange a bunch of pieces starting with bishop takes d4, queen takes d4, queen takes d4, bishop takes d4, black's problems are unfortunately not solved because white is threatening to go knight b6 and then even knight takes c8 followed by bishop takes b7, and black is going to lose the pawns, not just the b pawn but also most likely the a5 pawn also, and white will have a huge advantage. So this is if black decides to play bishop d4 and exchange pieces, but instead in the game black went bishop to c5. So here white went knight b3 attacking the bishop, and now also kind of opening up the diagonal for some deadly threats on g7. Black went back bishop b6 and white just simply played a4. The position is so bad for black that white has the luxury to play strengthening moves like a4 and not directly go for the kill. Black goes knight f8, so with the idea of I believe knight e6, so he can defend the g7 pawn and relieve the knight on f6 to move. So white simply played knight takes b6, queen takes b6, and white shows a very simple straightforward continuation. He went queen d4. So Benko is offering a queen trade, and the point being if queen trade happens then a5 and b7 pawn will kind of fall right away, because if queen d4 bishop d4 then white is threatening bishop c3 or bishop b6, and there's no good way to defend the a5 pawn. So in the game for 26th move queen d4 where white offered a trade, black refused the queen trade and black went queen c7, but this allowed white to gain a tempo with rook c1, a critical open c file also the tempo is, then black went queen e7 and white simply used a very easy tactic to win a pawn, and that move is knight takes a5. As black cannot play rook a5 because if black does, white will simply capture on c8, and there is really nothing that black can do here. So instead of taking rook takes a5, black instead went knight e6, white went queen d2 and black played h6, not just clearing the back rank being one of the ideas. The other idea is to go knight g5 and kind of do some ideas on f3 and h3. So here white went knight c4, black went knight g5, white went knight b6 and black went bishop to h3. So knight takes a8 was played, bishop g2. So black is trying to stir up some some activity, some play, but white has everything under his control. I'm pretty sure Benko had calculated all this out before he went into this variation. So white starts with bishop takes f6, and here I would ask the audience to calculate what happens after knight f3 check. And the point being, if knight f3, white simply can play king takes g2, and if queen e4, then white will go queen e3, and if knight h4 check, white can go king h3, and if queen g2, white can play king takes h4, queen takes h2, king g4, and the white king is now safe, and white also has extra rook, knight and bishop in the position. So this is if on the 33rd move if black plays knight f3 check. If black plays 33rd move g f6, then white will simply play queen e3 and white has an advantage. A big material advantage. Black should be basically resigning. So in the game what black did is for 33rd move bishop f6, black captured queen takes f6, and after king g2, queen f3 check. I hope you had calculated what to do here before you played bishop f6 as white 3 moves earlier. The point being, if you do go king f1, it's a big blunder because black will go queen h1 check, king e2, queen f3 and repeat the checks and force a draw. But white has king g1, and the point being if knight h3 check, now go king f1. If queen h1, now white has king e2, there is no queen f3 check, which was the case when the knight was on g5. But here if black goes queen e4 check, white can simply cover the king by going queen e3, and there are no more good checks. If queen g4, then you just can simply even go f3. So on 35th move, knight h3 check, king f1, black decides to play knight takes f2, and here white played queen f4, trying to force the queen trade, and black resigned in this particular position. So Arthur Bisguier realized that there's no more complications or any sort of thing that he can bring in this position, so he decided to resign. So the big black's mistake or decision was on the 11th move, when black decided to play knight takes d5. So here if black had reacted correctly with bishop f5, let's say, or some other variation instead of bishop f5, like queen takes d5, and black would have maintained the unclear position or equal dynamic equality position. But instead black reacted poorly here. Black played knight d5, and then white managed to seize the initiative with moves like b4, a3, and so on. So in this game, the thing that I really liked about Benko's play is that the moment he seized initiative with b4, he showed terrific precision, in my opinion. He did not really give black a chance to get back into the game at all. Even in the end, when it looked like black was creating some threats, I'm pretty sure Benko had calculated it all out, all the variations, and he realized that black has nothing. That's why he went into that kind of position. So terrific precision once he got the initiator, and also, like, he never, as I already mentioned, never really let the grip of the position go from him. He was the one who was in control throughout the game. So a really great game by Paul Benko, and that brings us to the end of the 11th day of the 21-day series titled 21 Gems of Chess. If you're interested in watching the previous days where we talked about other historical grandmasters, you can find the PGN file on the Follow Chess app, or if you're interested, you can also visit the Chess Gyaan YouTube channel where all the videos are uploaded. So it would be great also if you subscribe to the channel so you get the games directly on your YouTube. So if you have any feedback, comment on the video, feel free to share, subscribe, like, and comment on this video or on the channel, and also don't forget to press the bell icon so that you get notifications about the channel and when we upload new videos and so on. So this is 21 Gems of Chess, and today we talked about Grandmaster Paul Benko, who died a year ago, very recently, only a year ago he died, a very prolific chess player. And tomorrow I'll be back with a different grandmaster and one of his epic game or one of his best games against against another strong player. So that's all I have for you today, and everyone stay home and stay safe wherever you are, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Signing off as Grandmaster Priyadharshan. Bye bye everyone.